It's Thursday here in East Texas, February the 19th of 2026, and we are once again live from the press box on the Right Team podcast. This is David Weaver, of course, and I am your host of the podcast. And just want to thank everyone again for being with us again on a beautiful Thursday morning, Matt, in East Texas. A little bit muggy out there, which is a little bit ominous, but overall, pretty nice thing as I'm looking out my window here at the sun kind of peeking through the clouds. Of course, Matt.
As I said to Ashley on the radio this morning, as we talked about yet another day in the mid 70s, I said, "Man, that winter was a crazy week, wasn't it?"
We had a weekend. We had a weekend basically of winter, and that's sometimes how it goes around here. If we even get that, to be honest. Matt, of course, is my co-host and my brother in Christ, who's the pastor of Friendship Baptist Church here in Marshall. He's also, again, as he mentioned, sports director at KMHT 103.9 FM, the heartbeat of East Texas, and he's already been up and at 'em with the sports world going on around here locally. And before we get going into our show here, Matt, we got a lot to talk about here, particularly in college basketball. East Texas Baptist University combines strong academics with championship-level athletics and a Christ-centered mission that impacts every part of campus life. If you are looking for a university that values faith, competition, and community, ETBU is the place for you. Learn more about life on the Hill in Marshall, Texas at www.etbu.edu. Today's show is also brought to you by Stiles Electric, based right here in East Texas with offices in Longview and Mount Pleasant. Stiles Electric has been providing dependable, professional electrical work for over a quarter century in East Texas and beyond. When experience matters, Stiles Electric delivers service that speaks for itself. And finally, today's episode is brought to you by Right Team Services. We help schools, small businesses, and nonprofits turn ideas into impact through effective writing, clear messaging, and meaningful connection across your websites and social media platforms. When you need results but don't quite have the words to say, let Right Team Services provide the voice that you need. Contact me today at 903-926-1766 or visit our website at www.rightteamservices.net to learn more about how we can help you tell your story. Okay, Matt, we unveiled a new feature on the show. I think Monday was when you actually brought it up here for us. Your version of bracketology on the men's side in college basketball. And you have some updates for us here to that bracket based off of, man, a busy night last night in the top 25 for sure around the country. Let's take a look at how your bracket looks this morning.
Yeah, so, I told you when I first put it out that I kind of put it out quickly. I needed to re-examine some stuff. And after Monday night when Houston lost, which really at Iowa State wasn't enough to really drop, but I looked and Connecticut really was at that time, I felt like, more deserving of the final 1 seed than Houston. And then last night, Connecticut loses at home to a 500 Creighton team. So ended up going right back where I was with Houston as the final number 1 seed, Connecticut as the top number 2. The big movers, Florida is right on the cusp of a 2 right now. They're my top number 3. Of course, the biggest news yesterday was and really sad news about JT Toppin for Texas Tech. That is now the 3rd major injury of a contender we've had this year. That it's been shaping up to be maybe the best year of college basketball that we've seen in quite some time. It would be great if these injuries would stop so it could keep going, but is what it is. Biggest news probably is some really catastrophic losses happened last night. West Virginia losing at home to Utah. Utah was 1-11 in the Big 12 prior to that. That bumped them out of my bracket. Seton Hall was right on the verge. They lost at home to DePaul. That bumped them way down. San Diego State does fall out of the bracket, although they're really close. New teams in are Missouri and VCU. They're part of my last 4 in. The first team out is Ohio State, who made a good jump. They were on the next 4 out, but Ohio State got a good win over Wisconsin this week. That's got them on the cusp. It was kind of a crazy night. And really last couple of nights pretty crazy. Probably the the biggest movers, I'd say, are your North Carolina State, Iowa, SMU, and Georgia. They made significant gains there with some pretty good wins. And if you'll look, if you can find it on the Google sheet there, you can see it's pretty color coded as to who had a good win, a bad loss, or what have you.
Yeah, I like the way you did that.
But looking at the actual bracket, to me, what stood out the most is a ticket in Oklahoma City, if I'm correct, is going to be darn near impossible. You're going to have in Oklahoma City, you would have Houston, Kansas, and Kentucky. Not where they would potentially play each other right off the bat, although Kansas and Kentucky would, but Oklahoma City hosting Houston, Kansas, and Kentucky. There's going to be a lot of fans there if that ends up being the case. Other than that, trying to look at some matchups that kind of maybe stood out to me as far as teams that are in a certain place. I feel like, out in Portland where you've got Gonzaga, Nebraska, and BYU, that's interesting. Your Longhorns, I still have as a 10 in St. Louis against Clemson. Longhorns won this week. A home win over LSU is one you should get, so it doesn't really move the needle a ton, but it certainly keeps them in the conversation. I tell you who dodged a bullet last night was Texas A&M. They were losing most of that game to Ole Miss, and that would have been a bad loss, but they pulled that one out. So anyway, I don't know. You got questions? Anything stand out to you as you look at it?
No, I do think the injuries, and you mentioned it, are playing a heavy hand in this, unfortunately, because you have to take, even though you take into consideration the injuries, you have to take into account how that affects their teams negatively. And
Right.
You're going to see some really good basketball teams who probably were in the mix to make an Elite Eight, Final Four run. It's going to be interesting to see how, teams in particular like Texas Tech and those others that are dealing with those injuries, BYU, people like that, how that's going to affect their overall run. And you just don't know. I mean, you just don't know. You'd like to think Texas Tech is a good enough basketball program to overcome the loss of a JT Toppin, but are they really? I mean, you just won't know. So I think that kind of throws a little bit of ambiguity into this as to being able to predict a little bit more with certainty just exactly what kind of basketball team now we're looking at.
Yeah, and it's one thing, with BYU's loss is a significant loss with Richie Saunders. He's their second or third best player, most important player. The freshman is the first, Debansa. The North Carolina one, that's a freshman that was projected top 5 draft pick. Obviously, that's a huge one. But JT Toppin was at the forefront of the conversation for National Player of the Year. I mean, that you could pick 5 guys and he's in everybody's top 5 list. And so that loss stings a little differently than simply because, a lot of times if you lose a wing, you could find a guy that could compensate and be maybe a C+ version of what that was. You're talking about the guy that led you in rebounds. You're talking about the guy that's your offense centered on. You not only lose a high level player, but you kind of lose your identity a little bit, and you have to kind of rediscover who you are now. And so that's
possible time to have to do that. If these injuries happen in November, December, you have a significant amount of time to redefine yourself a bit.
Sure.
Now, a month away from the tournament, how much of that can you get done? It really is going to fall on the coaches a lot to see if they can develop that kind of overnight, to be honest. The other thing I noticed looking at this, and again, great job on this, the color coding really brings it out. There's a lot of significant losses this week. A lot. You're looking at Kentucky, St. Louis, Texas Tech, of course, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Clemson, Auburn, USC, some blue bloods in that mix, right?
Yeah.
This time of year, UConn, of course, last night almost an unforgivable loss for a team with those kinds of aspirations this late in the year. Man, I would have hated to have been in that locker room press conference, whatever, with Dan Hurley last night.
No doubt.
Losing that game at home to an unranked Creighton squad, but yeah, good work on it again. And I think this kind of tells us where we are heading here into the last couple of weeks of the season before conference tournament play. Again, these things are going to play out a lot in the conference tournaments as far as, I believe, solidifying some folks. And obviously, as there is every year, there's a lot of folks who are going to need to win a game or two in their tournaments to try and wedge themselves in, particularly up here as we're seeing in these columns, the first four out, next four out, those schools right there are going to be looking to kind of pull a rabbit out of the hat at their conference tournaments.
Yeah, and I'm going to see, I don't know if there's a format I can do it in or whatever, where we can maybe even as we get a little closer to March, show it to where, you know, we're not just talking about it, but show the bracket. But it's, yeah, it's conference tournament time. I tell you what, you're always glad when your team is safely in come conference tournament time, because it's just fun to kind of sit back and watch it all transpire. Which, speaking of fun to watch transpire, Alabama and Arkansas play a double overtime 117-115 game, defense optional.
It was like an NBA All-Star game going on.
I mean, yeah, freshman Darius Acuff for Arkansas scores 49. The sophomore LeBaron Philon from Alabama scores 35. And, you know, I know this is going to sound like a homer, so but it is something odd stood out to me, and
we encourage homers.
Well, sure. Building on our referee conversation from yesterday, just something I noticed: a double overtime game, right? You expect some people to be in foul trouble, right? Arkansas had 4 guys foul out. Well, we only go probably 9 deep, and 2 of them were out with injuries heading into that game. So we only go 7 deep and 4 fouled out. By the end of that game, there were 2 dudes that, like, I only know them because they occasionally come into Insomnia Cookies where my son works, and he tells me they came in. That's about the only reason I know about them. We had 4 foul out. Alabama had 0 foul out. Alabama only had 1 guy with 4 fouls. How you can play a double overtime game where clearly, I mean, fast-paced everything, attacking the rim, all the rest. How you can play a double overtime game and not only have no one foul out, but only have 1 guy get 4 fouls? How you can play a double overtime game and only commit 17 fouls as a team is fascinating to me. I feel like there's usually 17 fouls, sometimes in a half, and somehow in a double overtime game, that was all they committed. It was just I don't feel bad about that loss at all, because I feel like there was home cooking for sure.
There was home cooking. It was an overtime contest. You know, I personally think in terms of your standing and yes, it is a loss, but in essence, to me, that's a tie.
Yeah.
You should be probably the same status as you were going into that game if you tie it. And you know, they have to play overtime to get the winner, of course, but I would not put too much stock in that as a check mark against Arkansas right now.
Boy,
for sure.
What a fun game!
It was a fun game, and it was all over social media last night about what was going on. And you mentioned defense optional. That was pretty much the trending term when it came to that, for sure. And you mentioned earlier on, you mentioned my guys, Texas, kind of on a bit of a heater right now in the SEC, and
they are.
It did catch a break the other night by getting LSU at home. Of course, LSU is at the bottom of the conference for sure. It was kind of funny on that broadcast, and you know, and look, I've sat there and I've done broadcasts before, and you had to. You want to be neutral, and you also want to. You don't necessarily want to bury the other team in a situation like that. The commentators were doing their best to try to convince you that LSU is a potential tournament team, a bubble team. And I mean, they go and win if they were to ever just, go in and win the conference tournament, of course, yeah, they're in the tournament, but I don't see them edging out anyone. It was just kind of funny that I saw that. It's kind of the tricks of a broadcaster, kind of the fine line you have to walk sometimes.
Yeah.
And some of them just come right out and tell you the truth, which is what you would like as a fan. But it was just kind of interesting. Of course, the ones calling the game on the SEC network were former, Longhorn Network broadcasters, so you could tell where their allegiances probably were. But it was just interesting that they tried to keep LSU alive in the SEC. And we all know the SEC is a tough league, but LSU, I would think, is probably, well on the outside looking in.
Yeah, they are. And speaking of your Longhorns, massive next couple of games at Georgia Saturday, then home with Florida midweek next week. You get a split there. I think you have to feel really good.
They're playing their best basketball right now.
Yeah.
Sean Miller's done a great job down there in his first year. Really good basketball coach. Okay, thanks a lot, Matt, for, again, Thursday's edition of Back Row Bracketology. We will also have an update of the Back Row coming up on next Monday after the weekend action. Certainly there's going to be changes. There always is coming off a weekend. On the women's side, very quickly here, had a lot of games last night in the top 25. Nothing really earth-shattering, Matt, that I saw. You did have a bit of a mild upset within the Big 12 with Texas Tech defeating Baylor 87-56.
Well, they put it on them, man.
They did. And I say not necessarily by the score. It's just kind of a mild upset there with 15 versus 20. A road game there in the Big 12. You'd expect Texas Tech to have an edge there. And then there was another one in the Big 10 of number 23 Minnesota defending home court, knocking off Ohio State, which is ranked 10th, 74-61 last night. The bracketology on the women's side we're going to look at here from the ESPN site, their bracketology does not reflect last night's action. This was put out on Tuesday, just to kind of give everyone a view here of the ladies, where they stand right there. Now, not much movement, Matt, in the top seeds, with UConn, of course, being the number one, UCLA, a solid number 2 team in the country. They're a number 1 seed. And then you got the 2 SEC schools, Texas and South Carolina, coming in with the final 2 number 1 seeds. Texas survived holding on to their number 1 after last week. Again, last week about this time we were talking about their loss to Vanderbilt, I believe last Thursday, up there in Nashville. And but then Vanderbilt turns around and loses on the weekend, and Texas got a big road win at Tennessee. So the Lady Horns hold on to that number 1 seed at the moment. There, number 2 seeds as they stand right now on their bracketology. You got LSU, Vanderbilt, again another SEC sweep there in a couple of regions. Then the other 2 are Michigan and Louisville. Of the top 8 seeds, according to ESPN's bracketology, 4 of them are from the SEC.
Yeah, and we've been talking about that for the last couple of weeks. I mean, it's pure
the SEC. It's the SEC and UConn really are the stories there, right? UConn is solid number 1 and will be until someone is able to knock them off again. Which right now they're the best team in the country for sure.
I think it's 44 straight wins for them. Is that what I saw?
Yes.
44.
Yeah, they're back on a pretty good streak there under Coach Gino. The last 4 in on their bracketology here on the women's side, they have Nebraska, Arizona State, Colorado, and Clemson as the ones who would play in the play-in tournament there before the big tournament. First 4 out right now looking to get in: Virginia, Utah, Stanford, and Richmond. And then the ones who really, really need some help down the stretch are Fairfield, Kansas, South Dakota State, and California. Interesting enough, if you look at the 16 teams that they have, the last 4 buys, the last 4 in, all that stuff, none of them, well, actually one of them is an SEC school. So all the SEC schools that are considered for bids are already in the tournament pretty safely on that one. Although the Big Ten, interestingly enough, according to ESPN, currently has 12 bids, while the SEC only has 11.
Only 11.
Only 11. That's a lot. For a 14-team league, 16-team league?
16,
remember right now. Okay, well, that's your college basketball roundup this morning. Again, we're getting pretty close, Matt. I mean, a guy like you can probably smell it this time of year. Basketball tournament season coming up.
Oh yeah, it's It's you tell me in the sports sense, there's one time of year that I can really sink my teeth into. It's going to be this time. There's no
I tell you
doubt.
what I'm looking forward to here is the first Thursday of the first round.
Yep.
You're going to be giddy with excitement. I just anticipate that. But that Friday after the first round action, we'll probably just have a show of first round, your observances of that first round, because that, and I think you've mentioned this before, that Thursday and Friday may be the two most memorable sports days of the year outside of maybe a Super Bowl or a Game 7. Would you agree?
I think they even surpassed that.
I mean, we literally take off work for that stuff, and people are watching it on their phones at work. I mean, it's part of who we are. Those first couple of days of that tournament, that's when all the Cinderella stuff happens. It's great. It's great drama.
And it's a full day. I mean, it starts at 11:15 and ends at 11:15 at night, or even later. And you probably don't have a lot of office pools for things other than this. I mean, and not only that, but it's appealing on such a broader level, which the Super Bowl is as well. But like, typically, not only do people who know nothing about college basketball get into these bracket pools, they also win it. Like, being the most knowledgeable doesn't really help usually. It
really doesn't.
Yeah,
it doesn't. And we'll of course share our brackets as we get closer to it here, and just kind of have some fun with it. But yeah, man, it's getting close. March Madness is literally just around the corner. Our Beast Texas this morning, our high school segment that we're looking at here. Not a whole lot to say here other than what we've said. It's kind of a cool down period here these next couple of days as the girls get ready for their second round matchups in the area. If you do want to find out where your team is playing or who they're playing, I have put a schedule up on our Facebook page of best things I can find. Again, my source is Max Prep for the most part. And they're a little bit slow sometimes in getting particularly the times and the locations. But I think I do have the matchups there for you there to look at. And then as the boys by district matchups come in and across, I will also get those up on a Facebook post so you guys can follow your scores there, follow your teams. And Matt and I will have some commentary on it as those games are played. So, and I have put here just as a placeholder, as a reminder for us, we will, as soon as basketball season kind of winds down, we're going to, put a little bit more into looking at what the soccer teams are doing, and of course, baseball and softball here as we get into the spring. So, but a lot of stuff going on around here in East Texas high school action.
Yep. No doubt about it. We'll get some stuff going tonight. I think there's a few games tonight, but then really tomorrow is where it really ramps up for the girls.
And again, once again, you can always get a little bit more local coverage by listening to Matt's show on KMHT 103.9 FM in the mornings, the heartbeat of East Texas. Has some pretty cool interviews on there with coaches, area coaches, and just general information. There are more of a local flavor there that you can, I would encourage everyone to tune into that to get a little bit more insight.
Yeah, just a fun little word about this morning. I had Ty Taylor, the athletic director of Jefferson. We talked about the Jefferson girls dropping their opener in the playoffs to Atlanta and how weird it is that Jefferson and Atlanta aren't in the same district. That's who the boys play. Jefferson and Atlanta will play Tuesday night in Pittsburgh. So you get some of these rematches, both the boys and the girls playing the same team. But I tell you, that's if you could circle a game you might want to go see in our area, it's in Pittsburgh, Jefferson and Atlanta Tuesday night for the boys.
Yeah, and just kind of a note, when you go and you look on our Facebook page, again, the Right Team Podcast on Facebook, you will notice that there are no 5A games on there. And that's because all of our 5A schools lost in the first round. Matt pointed that out to me yesterday after the show, after we had recorded, and I did not put that together, that all of our 5A schools went down on the girls' side. So I thought that was a little bit interesting. We kind of mentioned it yesterday a little bit, how we were a little bit surprised, certainly with White House and Texas High getting upset as they did. But yeah, we have no more 5A schools from our area playing in the basketball playoffs on the girls' side. So.
That's right.
Okay. And so a little bit, taking back a little bit to yesterday. So, of course, I drive a school bus in the mornings and in the afternoons. over here in Hallsville. It kind of gets me out of the house, kind of gets me away from the computer for an hour or so every day. And so I started doing that this year. And so I get off my bus yesterday afternoon and I look at my phone, which is always in my pocket, safety first, right? When you're driving a school bus.
Right. Yep.
And I get off my bus, I'm walking to my truck, and I look at my phone for a text message and I see nothing but from my partner here, an American flag. And I knew we were playing hockey. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if we had scored a goal. I didn't know that the game had actually started, and would even be over by that time. So I have to ask you what happened. I've been on a school bus. I've kind of been disconnected from the world. And then the text you kind of gave me in a 3-sentence. This is great for a pastor. All right, just sum it all up for us, right? In 3 points. And of course, you described to me what had happened over there between Team USA and Sweden, and then I agreed with you. Of course, the flag emoji was perfect for that. So, a lot of exciting hockey action in the Olympics yesterday.
Yeah, 3 of the 4 men's quarterfinals go to overtime. Crazy thing is, so like I'm in this mode where I come home for lunch, I turn on Peacock and watch whatever is of most interest to me. On the Olympics. And then sometimes I just leave it on when I go to work. And then I come back. Last night I came home, not last night, yesterday, late afternoon to feed the dogs before going back to church for Wednesday night activities. And I'll walk in and we're leading Sweden 1-0 with a little over 2 minutes to go. And I'm like, well, great. I'll just watch the end of this and then be ready to roll. Minute and a half left, Sweden scores, ties it up, and it's like, oh, and then
you jinxed it.
And it's at that point I realize, I read a little closer, and I'm like, this is the quarterfinal. Like, this is, you lose, you're out.
Winner, you go home. Yep.
Yeah, you don't medal. And we go to overtime, and about 3 or 4 minutes in, we score a goal. Really great shot. If you haven't seen it, pinged it off the right bar. Just tucked it in, bounced across and tucked in the left corner. So now we are in the medal round. And so huge one there. And then, of course, I believe it's today, U.S. women and Canada women for the gold.
It is. That's right. USA and Canada on the women's side playing. Again, those are the only 2 teams who've ever played for a gold medal since women's hockey was introduced, I believe, in '98. It's been these 2 teams. I think the USA's won 2 and Canada's won 5, and here they are again. So yes, that will be taking place later today, of course. And then the game yesterday, of course, I had to go back and watch the highlights. It's always easier for me to do that when I know the result. I can kind of prepare myself as to how to feel watching it. And but I didn't even know who Quinn Hughes was. He's an NHL player, plays for the Minnesota Wild. Did not know that. That shows you how much I follow hockey for the most part. But he was the hero yesterday for sure in scoring that game-winning goal. But the thing I saw at the end of that, and look, I am not the biggest Olympic watcher. I've said that on this show, particularly in the Winter Olympics. Number one, I don't have time a lot to watch it because it's on 24/7 for these 2 weeks. But man, to see the way the Swedish players reacted to that goal kind of got me in my feels a little bit. You could tell that loss meant something to them.
Yeah.
And, they were carrying the weight of their entire country, and it went in a flash, and you could really see the dejection, the disappointment. I kind of felt for those guys in that moment. It was just kind of a neat sports moment there that, unfortunately, if you're from Sweden, you probably don't enjoy it as much. But and I'm not saying that to kind of gloat. I'm just saying that it was just, that happens a lot in sports, and when you see it, it does kind of tug at your heartstrings a little bit.
Especially the way it happened. I think if we'd have held on and won 1-0, it still would have hurt. But to score that late goal and have all the emotion of, oh my gosh, we were just about done and now we're back in it, and then to come crashing back down again, that's a tough swing right there. Tough.
And then, of course, the Canadians, the prohibitive favorite in the Olympics, had to do the exact same thing. They had to sweat it out there against against Czechia, I think it's how that's pronounced. And again, taking the Canadians to the wire and into OT, and what about a shockwave that would have sent, Miracle on Ice, kind of this year if that would have happened. But they do hold on and manage to pull out a win there and kind of keep it on track. I mean, if you ask most people going into this thing, they would say, particularly with the NHL players now involved, Canada and the U.S. were probably the top two teams based off of what happened last year in the Four Nations competition. So these two teams were expected to kind of be on a crash course with each other, and it almost got wiped out in the quarterfinals, and they have survived. That sets up now semifinals now with, of course, the U.S. taking on Slovakia in the semifinal, and then the Canadians are going to have to play a very good Finland squad in their semifinal. Of course, that one's pretty much got a lot of Dallas stars on there. Of course, that's the Finnish mafia in Dallas with Mikko Rantanen and those guys for Finland. So it'll be interesting to see. If you're looking at, I don't know much about Slovakia, but just on face value, as kind of a really backseat fan, I would say the Canadians have a little bit tougher job in the semis than the U.S. does right now.
I would think so. It's weird. Slovakia was the only team that didn't have to go to overtime to advance, but Finland, you just always know that's one of the things a lot of people, I think, when the further you get separated from the Miracle on Ice, I think they think we won gold. When we won that match, we did not.
We did not.
We had to then go play Finland in the championship.
And we're down twice in that match.
Yeah.
And had to rally a couple of times to do that in 1980. And the reason I can say that is I watched that most recent documentary, and that's what they talk about. The players themselves are like, we looked up there in the middle of the second period and we're down again, and we're like, we can't allow this to happen, after a thing that just happened a couple of days before. And that's kind of where they are right now. It's every shot matters.
Yeah,
you're at that, and I heard one of the quotes yesterday from one of the players on the U.S. side. It was like, it's like we're now playing 3 straight game 7s.
Yeah,
to win this thing. And that's true. That's exactly what they're doing. It's sports drama at its finest right now in men's Olympic hockey. So
really good stuff.
The other big thing that comes out really over the last couple of days, and I kind of wanted to get your take on this too, because we haven't really talked about this specifically, I don't think, before. But in general, what is your take on salary caps in pro leagues? And of course, the Major League Baseball Players Association, has a change at the top with Tony Clark resigning a couple of days ago for various reasons. But they did hire a gentleman named Bruce Meyer, who's a former attorney. He was the assistant director under Tony Clark. They basically just promoted him now to the executive director spot. And he had some ominous comments yesterday in regards to his new role. And just kind of, and again, we have talked about the looming labor dispute that's coming up. As of December 1st, there will be a lockout, most likely in Major League Baseball. But Meyer said yesterday, he said, our position and the historic position of this union for decades on the salary cap is well known. It's the ultimate restriction. It is something that owners in all the sports have wanted more than anything, and baseball in particular. There's a reason for that, because it's good for them and not good for the players. So just in general, partner, what's your take on salary caps?
Well, so in general, I know that they exist, and that's about the extent of my knowledge. I hate that side of it. I am the show me the game and let me break down the game and what I see. That side of it is a necessary evil, but every time I sort of dip my toe into that, I'm just like, this has nothing to do with the actual game. This is straight business. And I know
part of professional sports.
Yep, yes. And I know that it is business, which is part of the reason I like at every sport, I like college better than pro. Every single one of them. And so I know that you're getting into some of that game with college now as well. I understand that. But the good news about college is I can go watch a team like ETBU and still love it and not have to worry about all that, So, but personally, I think about salary cap and I look at what's going on. You and I have talked about this with the Dodgers, and I'm just like, I feel like it's pretty obvious what the right answer here is, but I know, like you said, it's owners versus players. And I guess my major take on all things finance, including salary cap and luxury tax and all the rest, is it's always owners versus players, but there's typically only one loser, and it's the fans.
That's right. And I agree with you on that. And let's talk about what a salary cap is here on my end, because let's be real here. In reality, okay, every major league sports team, whatever, operates on some type of salary cap internally. It's called a budget. Okay. Yep. For instance, the Texas Rangers this year, it was well known that they were going to cut back on their salaries internally. And that's how they went into the offseason. And you could tell by the moves they've made that they are operating on a much more tight budget than they have the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
That happens with every team. They have their own internal budgets and salaries, salary structure that they operate on every year. That's the part of running a business. And that's what it is. It's a business at that level. Now, so what a salary cap is basically a league-wide agreement on the parameters of your budget. And it operates that way in the NFL. It operates that way in the NBA. These things fluctuate based on the success of the league. The problem with the salary cap in baseball is that, of course, and you mentioned the big monster in the room is the Dodgers. Prior to Shohei Ohtani's, $700 million contract, whatever it is, over $1 billion. Prior to that, they were able to skirt and not have a salary cap because everybody was making money and everybody knew what their budget was, and it wasn't that big of a discrepancy. But when you have one team now that steps up, again, with their internal budget, the way they want to run their franchise, and it explodes like that, now it shines a great light on the disparity in Major League Baseball. But here's the deal. This whole idea of small market, large market, I don't buy that, because they get TV revenue. They get all kinds of other stuff that go into it. Why is, say, the Pittsburgh Pirates choosing to have a, let's just say, $100 million payroll? I'm just throwing that number out there. Or the Marlins, right? Those are typically when they say small markets. When they throw that out there, and then say the Texas Rangers go out and when they sign Seager and Simeon and those guys, and then they bump their payroll up to over 300, then what's keeping those other teams from being able to do what the Rangers do when they say big market versus small market? I've never been to Pittsburgh. I've never been to Miami. I don't see those as small markets. That's just a term that I've never understood when it comes down to this kind of thing. And so all of that to say, the only reason we're talking about a salary cap right now, and it's going to be at the forefront of these negotiations, is because of one team. Yeah. The LA Dodgers. And then all the other franchises now have said, okay, we were okay with our little internal budgets because it wasn't that big a discrepancy, but this one's gotten out of hand. And I'm not blaming the Dodgers for that. The Dodgers, again, as an organization, decided, hey, we make this much money, we're going to spend it on players. And, we can do it, so we will do it. Exactly. Yep. Exactly. And that's the thing, that the NFL salary cap is, I think, a little bit different than the NBA. That's what's so frustrating about the struggle with the Cowboys over these years. I have no doubt, at least back in the early 90s, prior to the salary cap, Jerry Jones spent money. He spent money on players. He went out and got Deion Sanders. He went out and signed all of these big name free agents because there was no salary cap. And so if you're the richest sports franchise in the world, why would you not flex that muscle? Yeah, absolutely. So again, I don't necessarily blame the Dodgers for what they've done. I kind of think it's shady, some of the way they've done it, with this deferred money and things like that. Yeah. But my take on a salary cap is that there's always ways that you can spend money, and in the case of the Cowboys, they just choose not to do it. They just choose to say, well, we're hampered by the salary cap. We got to watch our salary structure, while you got Philadelphia manipulating things and moving contracts around and moving money around, and they're able to go get pretty much everybody they want. Philadelphia will always make an impact free agent signing every year. They go into a free, and people say they don't have any money, but they find money to do it within the salary cap. So I don't know what kind of salary cap they're looking at in baseball, but I mean, my gosh, Matt, if you follow baseball at all, I mean, you go back to the 80s, the 70s with their initial work stoppages that I remember in my lifetime. These guys are not going to give up 40 or 50 years of not having a salary cap. I mean, this is going to be ugly. Potentially. I really think it will be. And I've talked about it here. It's going to be ugly. I expect it to be long. I expect the 2027 season to be in jeopardy. Because I just don't see the players ever relenting and saying we're going to accept the salary cap. But I also don't expect the owners now are going to walk away from it again, because you got 30 plus franchises plus one that are taking this stance. I think it's going to be, I don't want to say fascinating, because it's going to be sad. We're not going to have baseball next year potentially, other than college baseball. But yeah, it's part of the business part of this that it's really hard to understand. I don't understand it all. I don't pretend to know. I don't want to know what all goes into the salary cap and figuring all that out. The capologist part of it. But it is coming down the road in baseball, and that's what it's all going to center around. It's going to, this idea that we want a salary cap and the players don't want it. So anyway, let's move on to the back page segment of our podcast this morning here on the Right Team Podcast from the Press Box. Matt, what do you have for us today that you've come across over the last 24 hours we haven't talked about yet?
Well, this actually was from Tuesday, but I feel like it's worth mentioning, how much I like to keep everything as local as we can, and I'm wearing purple today because I want to talk about Wiley University. Tuesday, Wiley University won a baseball game against Grambling. Of course, there's HBCU. They kind of have that relationship, but a lot of people may not know Grambling is a Division I baseball program, and Wiley, an NAIA program, won that game, which I think is a pretty big deal. Grambling's not one of the top D1 programs in the country by any means, but you will occasionally see Grambling as the representative from the SWAC in the national tournament at D1 level. And so Wiley got that win. Not only that, but Wiley basketball, the women's basketball team has been really, really solid this year. So, we had our fun little ice storm, right? They had a game with Paul Quinn canceled during that time. Tonight, or actually I think it's this afternoon at 3:00, the Wiley women and Paul Quinn are making up that game. It's their senior night at Wiley, and those two teams happen to be tied for the division lead in that conference. There's two divisions in the HBCU athletic conference. So the winner of this game this afternoon at Wiley University is going to be the division champ moving into the conference tournament, where the two teams that make the finals advance to the national tournament. So really big week for Wiley University athletics. Thought that was really cool. I mean, a win over a D1 baseball program. And then not only that, but a chance to win a division on a senior night that had to be made up because of an ice storm. I just thought that was pretty cool and thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah, a big shout out there to Coach Biggs and what he's building at Wiley University for sure on their baseball side. There, and thanks for including them, Matt, on the back page here as we get into this. Never want to overlook our local colleges for sure.
For sure.
My side of it here, just very quickly, a few things stood out to me yesterday, more of a national focus here, but the Cowboys did introduce their new defensive coordinator, Christian Parker, yesterday, hence the backdrop today of AT&T Stadium. Cowboy fan, if you want to feel some excitement, rising up from the ashes of the last couple of seasons, go watch Coach Parker's press conference yesterday. A couple of things there. Number one, the guy's a very, very, very intelligent young man. And I mean, he just oozes confidence and oozes ability, right? I mean, you can tell guys who have future head coach potential in the NFL. This guy's one of them, just based off of what he said yesterday. But another thing that was very telling to me, and the PR folks for the Cowboys tried their best to downplay this, but you did not see Jerry Jones and you did not see Stephen Jones sitting at the table. I can't remember the last time a big press conference went down, for something like this, and you didn't see one or both of those guys sitting there, right front and center of it, right?
Yeah, kind of weird.
And to me, again, that shows a little bit of hope that maybe some things are changing a little bit when it comes to the football side of the Cowboys. But then again, you don't want to get your hopes up because they're always in the background lurking there.
Yeah.
So, but it was exciting to watch that press conference yesterday.
I like that. That's
always bothered me that, and I've mentioned it before, that the owner / GM has 2 radio shows a week during the season. His son, who is the executive vice president of the team, has 2 radio shows every week.
Yeah.
Your head coach only has 1. So
I did like the energy in there. I thought that was really cool.
It was. It really was. So hope is rising again in Cowboy Nation. Okay, and it'll get shot down in August probably. By August. April maybe with the draft. Another interesting note here, it really is not a surprise here, but the Mavs did announce that Kyrie Irving is done. They're just going to put him on the shelf, which is probably the smart thing to do where they are. We've talked about tanking, and I don't think this is as much tanking as it is, sacrificing the fact that he is 33 now, 34, and has become one of the most important probably players to their franchise as anyone in the NBA, based on what he has proven he's willing to do in terms of helping bring along and Cooper Flag. But they are going to shelve Kyrie until the beginning of next season. That should allow him fully to heal and not be rushed back from that knee injury. So I thought that was a great move. And then another one here for Texas Longhorn fans that I really was shocked about was that Coach Pete Kwiatkowski, Coach PK, Coach Sarkisian's defensive coordinator of the last 5 years, ever since he got there, who was replaced, of course, by Will Muschamp. Kind of been quiet throughout the coaching cycle the last month or so, but he lands in the NFL now. He's going to be the defensive line coach with the Arizona Cardinals, which, and if you notice, I don't know if you've noticed this, Matt, but there has been a trend of college coaches jumping to the NFL on an assistant. And I really think it has a lot to do with the uncertainty and my gosh, just the Wild West nature of what college football has become now. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
The coaches are saying, I'm done with this, and they're jumping up to the pros, and you're getting a good coach there who was a big time program defensive coordinator at both Washington and Texas, and now he takes an assistant coach job with the Cardinals.
Completely agree. I think you're exactly right. That's why you're seeing that happen.
Absolutely. And you're going to see more of it, I think. You're going to see a lot more shuffling going on, particularly in the assistant coach ranks in college football.
For sure.
Close out our show here today with this date in sports history of some things here have happened. I've kind of set this up in a timeline here, Matt, just to make mention of some birthdays and events. But on February the 19th, 1959, current NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell was born in Jamestown, New York. Of course, Goodell has served as commissioner of the NFL. This surprised me. It seems like he's been around longer, but only since 2006. So about 20 years.
Am I supposed to boo now? Is that how it goes whenever his?
That's how it goes with him. Whenever you mention his name, there's supposed to be some booing going on, and he loves that, by the way. Yeah, and I don't know, maybe the most polarizing commissioner in the world, but he's overseen the most profitable professional league in the world. So
he is.
But it's his birthday today, Commissioner Goodell. I thought this was interesting when I looked at my little list here. February the 19th of 1984, the Soviet Union won its 6th Olympic gold medal in ice hockey when they defeated Czechoslovakia 2-0 in the Sarajevo Winter Game. This was, of course, the first Winter Olympics following the 1980 Miracle on Ice, of course, which the Soviets lost in the semifinals to Team USA. They came right back 4 years later and reassumed their dominance on the world stage by winning another gold medal there. So the Soviet Union got a little bit of redemption 4 years later. And then on February the 19th of 1995, Denver Nuggets star and three-time NBA MVP Nikola Jokic was born in Sombor, Serbia. So happy birthday to the Joker today.
Jokic. Currently, hard
Is
to
he the
argue.
best player in the NBA?
Currently, I think you have to say he's the best player in the NBA.
I think he's the most impactful for sure.
Yeah.
And does it kind of quietly. He's won 3 NBA MVPs already.
And he just wants to go hang out with his horses. That's all he wants to do.
Yeah. And Luka.
Yeah.
Okay. Our final word of the day is found in 2 Corinthians 4:15. It says, therefore, we do not give up. Even though our outer person is being destroyed, our inner person is being renewed day by day. Folks, the scoreboard, which we talk about a lot out there, doesn't always tell the whole story, and neither does it today. Stay encouraged because God is still doing his work in you where it matters the most. For my co-host, Matt Paul, this is David Weaver, thanking all of you for listening out there in East Texas and beyond. We'll be back here tomorrow for another edition of From the Press Box on the Right Team podcast to get you ready for the weekend. Until then, as always, keep writing your story.